Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rami Alijil, and welcome to episode number 33. Today we interview Dan from CrestCore Realty and City Light Services. All right, Dan, you ready to rock this?
I am.
Awesome. Dan Butler is the co-founder of CrestCore Realty, LLC. CrestCore was started by Dan and his business partner because they were two real estate investors who not only wanted their personal rental properties managed professionally, but also wanted a real estate brokerage and property management company that would truly partner with them as they made more investments. After independently buying and managing their own rentals for close to 10 years, they realized that adding courteous and professional staff to their management team would help them better manage their properties as well as better serve their tenants. As a result, Dan recruited a few of his family members and close friends as clients to help offset the costs of adding more professional staff to their ranks. Started in 2013, CrestCore Realty has now grown to manage thousands of properties with over 75 full-time employees on payroll. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome.
Well, why don't you fill any gaps in that introduction and give us a little look into your personal life?
Wow. So, my journey kind of started, back in high school. A good mentor friend of mine did real estate and just taught me about wealth creation through real estate. And from that, he was actually also an engineer, and so I did engineering school at Clemson University, and I did operations and manufacturing for almost 20 years. But I always had this itch and desire to buy and manage rental property, and so I started doing it on the side and just did it as an opportunity to create options, long term, put them on short term notes, and buy and hold investments and see what happens. And so I had no idea that it would create several different businesses, and that I would quit my corporate job and be doing this full time. So that's kind of my short version of my quick journey, long journey of going from manufacturing to real estate.
That's awesome. That's awesome. A lot of people fall into it, into their business and realize, hey, there's something
here. That's right. Yeah.
That's great. Well, before we get into the operations and HR side of your company, tell me about your true area of expertise. And then tell us something about that area that we should know, our listeners, that probably don't.
So, one thing that we've learned is, and this kind of ties into area of expertise, is that, we really, and we didn't do that. I didn't do this for my first 20 years of focusing on my strengths and what I'm passionate about. And to me, those two are very related. So if you're passionate about something and you focus on your strengths, we're taught as kids, right, to always focus on your weaknesses.
Right. Yeah. The things that are wrong.
Go fix them. Go shoot hoops to get better at basketball. Or you might not be a basketball player. You know what I mean? Like, that might not be what you're good at. But or math. If you're not good at math, your parents would make you just do math problem after math problem, and you might not have a tendency for math. So kind of the same thing in business. And so what I try to do is focus on people's strengths and put them in the roles where they're going to love the job, be passionate about it. But because of that, they're also very strong at it, and so that makes our company stronger as a whole. And we did not do that the first several years in business. You did property management. Oh, come work for us. Fill this void, fill this gap. We would look for people that had done it before. And
very interesting. So in your kind of what you bring to the table then is this kind of attitude of designing and building businesses.
Correct.
And the kind of thing that you'd want, but my takeaway anyway is that in building those businesses, you should be focusing on your individual passions and trying
Correct.
to move into your employees towards their strengths rather than fill in weaknesses.
Correct.
That sound about right?
Yeah, that's right. And same thing for my partner and I. We focus on hiring people or putting a system in place that takes care of our weakness. So that I don't have to worry about that weakness anymore. It just kind of gets taken care of through a system or a software or a person. So exactly. I can go do what I'm really good at and focus on that. So
awesome. Well, as I mentioned before, our listeners are entrepreneurs, CEOs, and HR leaders. And just like you, they all go through that roller coaster of ups and downs. I know I have as well. And I have a tendency to learn more from my failures than my successes.
Absolutely.
So you're wildly successful now, but think back, reach back, decades, however long it takes, and tell us the story of your worst business moment and really take us there.
It's not a simple one-time event.
Yeah.
We started CrestCore officially in 2013, And those first 3 years, we doubled every year. And which, people would say, well, that's great. That's awesome. But what happened, in my opinion, and what we feel happened is we didn't have the infrastructure in place to handle that growth. So this last year, I would say we focused on stepping back, getting the right infrastructure in place, the right tools to manage the business, the right tools to hire the right people and manage them. And so that, from a worst mistake standpoint, I would say we didn't take a breather while we were growing. We didn't, we were just focused,
Right.
clients coming in, take care of them, plop them in the system. The problem is the system was not strong enough to sustain that growth. And so that'd probably be the biggest,
I think that's absolutely awesome for you to share, but I'm going to push you a little bit harder
All right.
and ask you to, you don't have to use names or anything,
Sure.
but give us an example. If imagine you had heard that when you first started your business, you'd be like, well, if I have too much growth, I guess I'll worry about it then.
Right.
But tell us this happened or these 20 things happened and they happened over and over. And it wasn't until we stepped back that we saw it.
When it was just Douglas and I, when we first started out, and we were probably managing, 300 or 400 by ourselves. A lot of those were our own. So we could keep our hands on everything,
right?
And keep it contained. What you're asking, I would say, is started getting customer complaints or a couple customers leaving, just thinking there's a better alternative out there. And the whole premise of what we tried to create was something that was different from everybody else and better from everybody else. And I still think we have that. We just, for a minute there, about a year and a half ago, we lost it for a second of just letting the little things, we're good at 90% of what we do. It's that 10% that was kicking our tail and causing issues, which caused pain for the clients and ultimately pain for us, right? With potentially losing a client or not spending the money they would, they stopped buying properties for a minute to kind of figure out what's going on. So instead of going from 10 to 20, they stayed at 10.
Right.
And so that whole gap there creates lost opportunity.
Absolutely.
Lost revenue, lost margin, all that kind of stuff. So it's all related. But I think that answers your question.
That's wonderful. I appreciate it. So that's the signs. If you're growing on pace and suddenly you start seeing those, perhaps some negative customer interactions, some lost customers, those kind of things.
If you find yourself like the Titanic, if you find yourself always plugging holes, and of course this is a podcast, you can't see my hands, but if you put one hole, fixing one hole and one plops up another place and all that kind of stuff, you got to step back and say, all right, how do we put a permanent fix, whether it's a person, a process, and all that stuff. And we just let too many of those accumulate is how I probably better state that. It wasn't like everything's falling apart and things are just going to crash and burn. It was just the little things.
Right.
But those little things add up. We manage for people that are very professional, someone like yourself, in the business world. They don't want any problems. They want this is an investment. They want it to go easy,
right.
go well, no issues, get a check.
Call it a day. Yeah.
I'll call it a day. That's right.
That's right. Okay. Well, with the bad times come the good. So, and a lot of times they're directly connected, but they may not
That's right.
be.
Yeah, no.
Tell me about your best moment of realization, that aha moment that maybe helped your business succeed.
So, it's funny. Out of that pain.
It's always
funny
it's
how
like,
you said that. I was
yeah.
You must have read my notes, because what led into our best moments which was number one, creating a operating system for our business called Traction. It's out there. It's something your listeners can go download, buy the book.
This is your system itself?
No.
Oh.
It's somebody else. Gino Wickman, I think is his name. He created this operating system. He's helped countless companies create a way to manage their business, creating scorecards for processes, creating scorecards for their people, creating a way to track goals and create goals. So it's really just an accountability system that's simple. You think of all those things are out there, all those flavor of the month,
absolutely
things that are out there. This is just simple, but it keeps you on task. So that was probably one, and then so that helped every employee have a number, and then you could see where you could catch those cracks before they became too big of an issue.
Nice.
For example, turn times for a house. We want it to be 14, 15 days. From
This is how long it takes?
How long it takes for a house from the time it goes vacant to occupied.
14,
14 days.
Yeah, okay.
So when we first started this journey, it was over 20. And so you get that down at 14, but now you measure it every day. It's one of the first things I do in the morning, check one of countless numbers, but one of those is those turn times. And if you start seeing that creep up a day, all right, what's going on, guys? What's happening? Oh, well, we had this. As long as they have an assignable cause, but they know you're watching, they know they're being held accountable, and that keeps that number where it needs to be. So
for our listeners, what would be their main takeaway from your aha moment? What should they, when they're thinking about their business or their organization, one of the first things you would do, I guess, would recommend an operating system.
Operating system, yep. And then I got another one for you if you want, but the operating system and just implementing it. And the part that, and I was talking to a guy at breakfast right before this podcast, he's looking to put processes in place. And we talked a lot about SOPs, which is standard operating procedures. And part of that whole concept is, you have to take a step back, and it's a very painful time. Who wants to sit and write an SOP, right? Who wants to sit and set a meeting format that you're going to follow every week and that you got to keep data up for? Who wants to do all that? But once you do it, it's there. And so you're just then maintaining it. So there's a lot of 6 months worth of hard work that you have to step back. Kind of you get out of it what you put into it. So, that's getting where you're moving from working in the business to on the business.
Right.
But it's painful. I can't, I stress that with all the employees in every department. Like, hey, go ahead and do this right now. Create the system to make it more proactive versus reactive. But people just don't want to put that extra effort sometimes. They just want to keep answering customer complaints or whatever it is.
However they do it that day. Right.
Just keep doing it that same way. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? But part two that I was going to tell you is culture index. Some way, it's a survey that we use, and you can look that up too. Just Google culture index. I think you've taken the test or the survey. I've taken it, obviously, but we create profiles of what we want that person, what behaviors we want that person to have. Are they highly driven, or are they better order takers? Are they highly social? Are they more analytical? Are they do like a bunch of things at one time, or are they like one task at a time? Are they very detailed? Are they very, more less detailed and more ideas and concepts and free-flowing, of ideas? So we create one of those for every job that we have. And we don't hire unless we do that.
So beyond job descriptions, you go to a job
profile.
Profile.
Characteristics of profile, exactly right. And so we've changed that in the last 6 months, and every hire that we've had has been spot on.
Really?
We know what the weaknesses are going to be with hiring that person with that profile and what the strengths are. And as long as we know the weaknesses, that they're irrelevant or they don't matter, or we can put something else in place, then we just know what we're getting into. Part two of that is just the common language for the office. They know I'm not a detail person, so they know they got to put a system in place that I can just plop over and put something into the system and let it take care of itself, because I'm not going to be very good at following the details. So those are the two things that we came out of our worst moments. It's made a huge difference.
So implementing processes, procedures, and operating system, and this culture index, start trying to find the right person for the job on a personality and social basis, and then fit into that.
So I'll give you an example. Like, that culture index will help you figure out, do you need somebody to create the SOPs, or do you need somebody that follow the SOPs?
Different things.
It's different things, right? It's two different profiles, two different characteristics.
That's excellent. Well, now, Dan, in just a minute, we're going to go into some quicker questions, nice, easy ones. But here is one more in-depth one, and I love that it goes straight to what you said your kind of main aha moment is. My organization, Poplar Financial, focuses on that back office, the processes, policies, procedures, and yes, even the paperwork that keeps businesses running. In your organization, what's one process, an actual process, and it doesn't matter that it's a real estate one or maybe it's an office one, process or procedure that you put in place recently that maybe you wish you had done earlier in your business, and why?
Well, that's a good question. One thing that we've done, is owner approvals. We used to have a hard time tracking. We'd send, we get 40-something work orders a day, and tracking owner approvals for work. And so we have an IT guy on staff that's really good with integrating our software with whatever we want to do. And so we created a robot, an actual system that sends out that owner approval and tracks it green, yellow, red. Mm-hmm. And so green means everybody knows to go forward. Red means they haven't answered. Yellow means there's a question, they've rejected it and want some feedback. And so categorizes everything, helps us watch it and maintain it. And so nothing gets lost anymore. Like where you use email, you're at the constant back and forth. Where'd it go? Who's got that email? This keeps it all contained for that one process, and that's been a huge.
So a very specific process that allows you to interact in an extranet effectively with these clients, where they give approval for work.
Right.
And then I'm assuming there's some sort of dashboard as well where you can see all of the requests and whether or not they're good to go, questions or not good to go.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then the other one I would say is just starting to use virtual assistants more. I didn't even know what a virtual assistant was, 2 years ago, and we're using them to process invoices every night.
Sure.
Or do leasing pictures. Every night they get a report, and they go in there and upload them to our software, get the pictures from Dropbox, and it's like clockwork. You come in the morning. It's like we've turned into a 24-hour operation.
Exactly. And those are, in using VAs and those kind of things, that is something that is so process-driven.
Yes.
Because you have to
lay out that
screenshot
SOP.
it and break it down exactly how you want it. But it'll come out that way every time.
It'll come out that way. Don't ask them to think or do something different. It's going to follow those 10 steps, but
it'll happen.
It'll happen. That's right.
Excellently. Very cool. Well, you have done great. Thank you for sharing those processes and your stories. Now we're going to get into some quick questions, but I wanted to ask one more broad question, which is what you have going on professionally that has you most excited. So what's the next couple months got in your timeline that's getting you out of bed in the morning?
Well, because of the Culture Index, using it, we've hired the right person to run our brokerage. We call him a trailblazer. We've hired somebody to run our operations on the maintenance side, to run the technicians. And then we're looking to hire an operations manager for the property management company. So that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, just putting the right people in that place, so that I was on vacation this last week, and just being able to be away and things run.
That's amazing. Isn't that a great feeling?
It's a great feeling, but it's taken a lot of work to get there.
Sure.
And I still, the one little piece that I had going on was the last hire that I got to get put in place that will allow us to, to be able to work remotely or whatever. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We'll be working on the business.
That's that journey of...
Yeah, and so then, I emailed my partner this weekend. I said, I got 20 things I want to work on for growth that I'm just sitting here like a revving engine, just sitting on my list in my notebook, waiting for the next hire. And so that's what gets me up and gets me excited, because I love growth. I love building businesses. I love creating jobs. And part of that's just creating jobs for people to have the right culture. If you walk through our office, you see, people love coming to work. I mean, it's a hard business.
It's a beautiful office, too. Beautiful,
thank you.
Beautiful office. And I was here a little before you and got to meet some more people, and everybody was courteous and wonderful. And you got a great staff.
Thank you. Yeah.
You got a great staff. Well, of course, I'm sure you've read, but the E-Myth Revisited is a great book. Yeah. But talks about those three different roles, the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur, the business owner. And, that journey of successful businesses, the first thing they replace is that technician. They can wrap your head around, okay, I'm not supposed to be repairing the property.
That's right.
I'm not supposed to be leasing the property.
Right.
You can get that, but it takes a couple of years to really marinate, I've noticed in talking with other business owners, to realize that no, management is also a different job.
Correct.
And it takes a while to build the infrastructure and the client base to support those people.
That's right.
But once you can get those pieces in place, it's such an exciting journey.
Yeah, because you can focus on, being what they call a visionary, working on the next big thing.
And it leads to explosive growth. I mean, it's not like I know some people may view that getting to that step as like, oh, now you go play golf all day. Or no. Now you can actually do what you were meant to do from day one and grow this thing.
When you have that, that time to just think, and just what's the next big thing you can create and build, but you can't do that when you don't have the right people and the right infrastructure in place. You're just stuck in the mud, if you will.
That's how I felt. That's one of the reasons I launched this podcast. It's been a few years in the making, but we're finally to that point where, if I spend a couple hours every week just talking to my favorite people around and in town and clients and learning about their business this way, I can help.
Helps you grow.
I can help. I can help. Yeah.
It's a two-way street, right?
Yeah, but it's not doing my job technically. I'm not actually doing anyone's HR right now, right? We're not processing payroll or handling benefits, and it's an experiment and a growth thing to let us see what this turns into.
That's awesome.
All right, this is our quickfire questions.
Okay.
These are simple, though feel free to expound, but these are pretty easy. So, if you had one book to recommend for our audience, what would it be and why? Start with the real easy one, right? Just one book.
On a personal level, I would say the Bible, obviously. On a professional level, I've read this book twice, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mr. Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie himself, yep. And why I would say that is I learned so many valuable lessons of how to connect with people. I think that the more you focus on listening, the more opportunities there are to make improvements and grow and connect with people. That's one of the biggest takeaways I would say I got from that book is listen, not be heard. You know what I mean? Like, don't be the one that has to talk, about every subject. Just listen. Which thankfully that fits my personality, being a little more of an introvert. So some of that comes naturally to some of us.
Back to that disc profile you were talking about.
Yeah, that profile, that characteristic. I know I'm more introverted, more analytical, but just being just listening to people and just hearing what they're really saying, and not just being there. So,
what's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Personal habit, being disciplined. And whether that means creating goals, like every 6 months or so, just creating something else you're going to work on. The biggest one I would say is just some sort of exercise 7 days a week. That clears my mind, that gets me started for the day, helps me sleep good at night.
Do you exercise most mornings, or?
I do. 7 days a week.
That sounds like a personal habit, yeah.
Yeah, so it all really started, I've worked out all my life, but that's how my business actually started. I think I've told you that. Maybe I have, where, Douglas and I started running probably in 2004. And rain, snow, sleet, 11 degrees, 100 degrees, well, it doesn't matter. He's out outside of my house at 6 a.m., 4 days a week.
Wow.
And so those become our strategy meetings, and that, to me, that's what's part of our growth. If you ask me what's contributed to where we've gotten today is that discipline, those meetings, having fun. It's quiet. Kids aren't, hanging on you, pulling on you, distracting you. It's just he and I just running and just free flowing ideas. And so that's probably just having that discipline is probably to answer your short question.
Discipline, and that's shown by goal setting every 6 months and exercising every day. I love the idea of a jog or a run or a walk even with your business partner. That's got to be such value time.
Oh, absolutely.
So many businesses, it's every month that the leadership team gets together to talk.
Yeah, we do it every other day, and so
amazing.
we don't have to talk for 2 days. we joke, we'll pass each other's hall and say hello, but that's the extent of it. So we don't need to. We're focused, we're aligned, we know where we're going, and make it happen.
That is awesome. So tell us about your favorite internet resource, like Google Suite or Evernote for business, a tool.
So I've used Google Keep. I've tried that a little bit. I'm not a huge techie. I love Gmail from the way it organizes emails. But the biggest thing I would say that and I learned this actually from you, so pat you on the back, but is use of videos. I don't know if this counts to answer your question.
No, yeah.
But before I went on vacation, I spent 3 hours and created six or seven videos about property management. And so I had 6 or 7 new clients introduced to me while I was on vacation. Sent them a standard email template, website link, the Dropbox link with videos, and then asked them for feedback because it's the first time I've ever done it. And I kid you not, I normally would spend 45 minutes plus with a new client on the phone talking about us My last one was 12 minutes. 12 minutes.
And they're like, let's sign.
The sign. One of them said, one was 0. He goes, I love what I saw. I connect with you. I know what you're talking about. Just let me know when we get closer, we'll connect. And I was like, beautiful.
Videos.
Make
that personal connection.
Make that personal. That was a surprising piece to me that to further that point for the listeners. I think is they saw my expressions, they saw my passion, they saw just me being real. Not sugarcoating and not trying to sell them something. They knew that probably if I was like that, hopefully our employees would be that way. So that'd be my biggest takeaway. I learned it, from us going to lunch and sharing ideas, right? I think we were just throwing out some stuff about customer service and client services, and now we're going to do that for the brokerage. Introducing when they want to go to buy a house. He spends, our broker spends 7 or 8 hours a week on the phone, and so if we get that down to 1 or 2.
You've added 4 brokers.
4, 5, 6 hours of time that he can go connect a house with a client and get a house sold. So creates more revenue.
Absolutely. We learned videos because we had to make that connection with our clients. But we found probably the number one biggest use for videos for us is just a tidbit has been internal. Even though we can go talk to one another, but you're scaling and you're growing, and as you add on more people, that same trust and that same understanding that comes from that your prospective clients saw, you get even a higher return out of that same feeling coming from your employees.
Okay.
And so, of course, in person and all that's great, but we have found our one of our number one accelerators in this last 7 or 8 months has been all this video stuff we'd been doing for clients. We turned and started doing it internally. How do you do this thing? Well, here's a video. Here's Rami, the CEO, standing up there walking you through our decision-making process for this benefit.
And it turns it real. It turns it...
Yeah. How do we...
Yeah.
And just attaching that to SOPs has blown our... Anyway,
well, and I think, I think that's going to start blowing up our whole business.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's going to be a huge game changer for the last half of 2017.
All right. Next question. What is the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
It's probably through reading a lot of books like John Maxwell and people like that kind of got that servant leadership mindset, staying others focused. I say that a lot, but if you and it comes actually from QBQ, Question Behind the Question by John Miller. If you read his book, it's about personal accountability. It's basically saying, what can I do to help? And so if you stay others focused and try to help others succeed, whether it's your tenants, your clients, your owners, if you just try to make sure that it's a win-win, every conversation, every interaction is a win-win, and not so much, and one of our core values, long-term partnerships versus short-term transactions. So many people want to make that big buck so quick, one and done, so easy. And if you just look at trying to make it a win-win and, the money be the back end result, right? Where if you just focus on the win for the employee, the client, the tenant, the money will come, Might not be tomorrow, but at some point it's coming, So I think that's my biggest piece of advice, just others focused.
Awesome. Dan, to wrap this up, tell our listeners what the best way to reach you is, and what are the specific reasons that they should contact you or your organization? What is it that you'd like to hear from them about?
Sure. To reach me, it's Dan at CrestCore.com, CrestCore.com, or 901-289-7888. It's funny, I'm on the radio and different things, and I always get my cell phone out.
My eyebrows just went up. Okay.
That's the only phone I have, so I don't have an office extension or anything. It's just my cell. But and then as far as for where we can help, we just help investors or people that are looking to another vehicle to invest. So we help people buy or sell, rehab, and then manage rental property throughout the Mid-South. So we do a little bit of North Mississippi, Shelby County, Tipton County, a little bit of West Memphis, Marion, Arkansas.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you so much for sharing with our listeners and with me. I wish you the best of luck, and we can help. I'm here to help any way we can.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.